Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement. This week's episode is dedicated to your one friend who had a really great week. What is that? What? Oh my God, it can't be. It's just a normal flipping crisis. Just a normal crisis, no precipitating factors. Oh my gosh, it's not red footed or blue footed. I can't believe you're going through that, but you're going to be totally okay. No follow up, no nothing. Just a simple blip in the radar. Wow. I didn't think I'd be here on a Tuesday just having a normal flipping crisis. Wonder what else is out there. Hello, and welcome to the Emotional Endurance Movement, the only mental health variety show that's helping you build your emotional endurance alongside us. I'm Laurie Sharp-Page, your Chief Coping Officer, and my co-host here with me are behaviorist at large and someone who got back from a very relaxing but smoky vacation. It's Crimson McDonald.
Howdy, y'all.
On this week's episode, we're talking about the feeling of impatience and the coping skill of bird watching. So let's get into it. First up, we've got our weekly EEA scores. So Crimson, how you doing? What's your score?
So, Lori, I'm doing about the same, which is surprising because we went on vacation. You would think that those things would come up, but I think it's the after vacation crash that has it, where you kind of are not excited about getting back into the routine. So I'm about the same. So vacation didn't really bring me up or pull me down, kind of kept me at the same, but there's nothing wrong with where I'm at. I have a chronic optimism problem. Let's just face it. And environmental efficacy just seems like something that always is going down because it's summer and the kids are here. And I just don't think it's going to get fixed until they're back at school. So it feels
Yeah.
accurate. I feel about where I've been. And I'm in a good place. I'm level. I'm leveling.
Well, beans. Awesome.
All right, Laurie, what about you? Let's look at
So
your
I'm up a
scores.
little bit this week. I had a week of lots of rest and recharge. Even though I didn't go anywhere, I allowed myself to take it easy. And then we had some exciting things that happened that helped to build my hope and my optimism. Environmental efficacy is staying the same. Self-efficacy is way up because I have started PT, physical therapy, and I was walking to the courthouse last week, which is a whole other story, but I was walking in and I realized that I was walking like a normal person, like without a limp,
That's awesome.
in regular shoes without a boot. I get tired, I still have pain, still not 100%, but so much improved. And this is my first time going to physical therapy, and I'm really grateful for physical therapists. They've helped me so much. The amount of how much I've gotten better in the last month is surprising to me, and it's because I've had great treatment providers who are helping me learn about my body and my muscles and all the things. So I'm up a little bit this week. I do feel like when I look at the score, I do feel like my reserves really did get built up last week.
Yeah.
Like that rest, we often think as rest is not productive. My scores this week show that rest was very productive for me last week.
Absolutely. I think this is what's interesting about looking at the scores because we can see that your reserves are up and now it's time to bring up your full endurance, right? Your scores up, but look at that hope and optimism. You're like
Yeah, they've
glowing,
really
man.
jumped. Yeah,
And
yeah.
self-efficacy, getting your leg back. Wow, shocking.
God, I've been like doing things that they're not fun things, but vacuuming the floor, things like that that I just haven't been able to do. And it feels so good to be able to do them because I feel like I'm healing. That's the piece of it. I think if I wasn't feeling like I was making that much progress, those things would still feel very heavy to me. So I'm really grateful, and healing has definitely helped me out. And I'm excited to hopefully keep this momentum up. Environmental efficacy remains a challenge for me too.
Kids home for summer. It's going to
Yeah.
be a challenge for us.
Yeah.
I think the experience that you've had with your leg is part of what led us to this week's episode, which is about impatience.
And now it's time for the insight of the week.
So, Lori, this week's insight is something true to my heart. I had a depressive episode many years ago now, but during that, I was looking for frameworks to understand existence. And one of the places I ended up was in the Chinese Tao. I don't know how I ended up there, but I believe that you would say this name loud. Oh, what would it be? I think
Lao
it's
Tzu.
Lao Tzu.
I don't know. Who
Okay.
knows?
So this week's insight is from Lao Tzu, or it's been attributed to Lao Tzu.
Yeah.
Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished. And
Mm.
this hits hard for someone like me that considers themselves extremely impatient, because I think we often feel like by speeding things up, we're getting more done.
Yeah.
But the reality is, everything takes time, and patience and seeing progress in so many aspects of your life is hard. I remember I wanted to be an artist, and my art teacher said, you could be a great artist if you were patient.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. And honestly, when I am patient, I'm a fairly good artist, but I'm impatient.
Yeah.
But it's because I think the ultimately impatience is driven by the inability to sit in the discomfort of things getting done.
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
love this because, as they say, nature doesn't hurry. We know that. If you have a garden, you're very aware of how little it hurries, but it gets done. The fruits still bear, it still works out. So I love this
Yeah.
quote. Such a good reminder, and it grounds me in the fact that you can't hurry life.
I do have a garden that is growing like crazy right now, and it's awesome. There is something about particularly the way we do our garden is there's a little bit of chaos gardening to it. We try and do some intentionality, but it's also like what's going to grow and what's going to do well, and it's interesting to see how it changes day by day and how it reminds me of pregnancy in that during pregnancy I was probably my most mentally healthy, which I know is not most people's experience, and I'm very grateful for it. But
You know,
part of
I
the
had
reason
my first pregnancy was exactly the same. Best
is
mental
very
health.
interesting. I'm very lucky with both of them. I just felt very chill overall, which was good because they were during a pandemic, so I didn't really.
Kind of needed that.
Uh, when I reflect back on the chillness, is I think that I really had to surrender in that moment to the fact that things were happening inside of my body that were outside of my control. There was a process taking place that was of my making, but I was in no way, shape, control of it. And so I think it really helped me surrender to that. And then they were born, and then I was like, oh God, now I'm really out of control.
Yeah.
that
And
and that feeling has just continued in perpetuity, and I'm learning to cope with it, but I was much more able to surrender. And what's interesting is we had a video, one of our videos went, we'll say semi-viral. We got like 15 likes, maybe 20 likes, I don't know. But it was big for us a couple months back, and it was about urgency and how
mhm.
urgency is a key sign of our nervous system being in a dysregulated state. And I have been reflecting on that so much recently after I got hurt because I am somebody, Crimson, I'm always rushing. I'm doing things. I'm like, I am hyper productive, sometimes to a point that it is not good for me. But I like efficiency. I like to get things done. I have a lot of things going on in my mind. And so I'm always doing. And when I got hurt, I couldn't do anymore. I went through a pretty dark stretch there, as my EEAs have documented. And part of that experience was recognizing how much I had been hurrying to do things, to check things off the list. And then also noticing how that hadn't gotten me what I wanted, the outcomes that I
Right.
hadn't wanted. And I don't think if I hadn't been forced to shut down, I don't think I would have necessarily taken a critical lens to some of the things that I was doing and checking off the boxes and really said, but wait a second, what is this actually doing for me? What value is this bringing? What cup is this filling? What business is this stimulating? What is the piece here? And when I was forced to shut down and not hurry, because there wasn't anything to hurry to, because you can't hurry healing. That's the one thing you really can't hurry. It made me realize that I was more focused on the doing and less focused on the outcomes.
Right.
And I'm coming back into this. And I think one of the reasons my reserves are building and stuff is because I'm looking at what are the real outcomes that I want, and what are the not easy ways to get there, but what are the ways like we're not like doing everything for everyone all the time. The more intentional, I'm going to invest this time, I'm going to invest this space, and then the more intentional rest along with it. I rested more this last week than I probably have in a long time, and I really struggled with guilt over it. But like I was genuinely tired. I've been using muscles that have been stymied up for a little bit of time, and just even the psychology and the physiology of moving again is like it takes a lot to wake your machine back up, right? And so I think that part of this is recognizing, I like what you said at the beginning, is that we often feel like we get more done when we hurry. But like, do we? Because my recent experience has shown me that is not the case. And it has shown me once again something that I will often practice or I will often preach, but it is harder to practice, which is that like it's important to rest. It's important to find ease in life. It's important to find flow and not just go do, 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 do.
It's not even that the Tao is about patience, it's about accepting and respecting nature's process, right?
Yeah.
The story that they tell that encapsulates patience so well is the bamboo plant. Obviously, bamboo is a native plant to China. And I don't know if people know this about bamboo, and I think this is real. I didn't do my research, but I'm fairly confident. I'm just going to go for it, okay? But bamboo takes years to grow. And so you can plant it and you have to water it, you have to fertilize it, you have to like keep doing your thing. And it can take up to 3 or 4 years. But once it grows, it just takes over the earth. And if
Yeah.
you've ever had bamboo in your yard or been around a yard with
It's
bamboo,
invasive.
it is
Yeah.
invasive. And my friend cut her foot on a shoe. It's horrible. But and it's interesting that
I
the
think the first
Chinese,
3 years it builds the roots and the colony,
right?
right?
It's the
Underneath, you don't
foundation.
necessarily see it growing. Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you're sitting impatiently waiting for this thing to come. But once it arrives lush and
In abundance.
in abundance, right? And I think that it's not lost on me that the Chinese Tao, a lot of the framework is around this concept, and bamboo is the most native and typical plant that you will see in China. I love the Chinese Tao. I'm not religious. I don't practice it or anything. It's totally, I have a book that I refer to. It's like a summary of each of the different chapters of the Tao that I use a lot when I just need some reflection. Highly recommend it, but mostly for impatient people like myself, it's very helpful in grounding you in not why patience is important, but why it's necessary.
Yes. Yeah, I took a class on Taoism in undergrad, and I consider it more of a philosophy than a religion. That's just my kind of
Mm.
take on it. But I found it to be really a helpful guide for learning how to experience what is in a
Right.
way that is less resistant and less like plowing through. I kind of think Taoism is really the basis of a lot of the work I've been able to do around radical acceptance because
Interesting.
the
I can see
Tao
that.
teaches you to allow that to be and for you to be as well, like that dialectical kind of nature of it. I found.
Yeah, no, I thought the Tao gave me a really strong framework to deal with a lot of my anxieties around mortality and just time in general. And the Tao being so rooted in time and in the concept of natural processes, it
Yeah.
does help me slow down and realize that there's a world outside of me and things get done.
Yes.
A tree doesn't feel guilty for wilting in the winter. It does, and it comes back stronger and better the next year. Winter doesn't rush, healing doesn't get rushed. Life, you can't rush it. You can't plant a seed and have the fruits of it the next day.
I
It's
think a
just
lot of the rushing and urgency is really
it
dysregulation.
is. The discomfort of waiting sucks. And think of our society now and how fucked up our kids are going to be because they don't even have to wait to get their photos printed. And we used to have to like
Yeah.
take pictures and like go get film processed or
Go to
wait for
the
the
1 hour photo.
yeah, or wait. Oh, that was a premium. I never was in
That
that
was a
income
premium, yeah,
bracket.
usually I just send them away and get, like, it'd be, like, a week, and then you get them back from, like,
Yeah.
Sam's Club, yeah.
Oh man, we've talked about this before. Think of the experience of walking into a movie store, a video store. You'd walk in, you had to hope that they had the movie. If they had the movie, you had to
Right?
hope that it was there. If it was there, you had to hope that you got part of that was like setups for disappointment and requirements for patience. And we have eliminated so many of the requirements for patience in today's world with streaming, with technology, with all of the instant gratification. Impatience, I mean, look, I'm millennial. I was impatient from birth. My daughter's impatient. I do think it is like something I have to work on. But it is easier to work on something when nature is absolutely the most patient thing there is.
This week's feeling of the week is impatience. So, Crimson, what's the definition of impatience?
All right, Lori, the definition of impatience. Impatience isn't the inability to wait, it's the inability to tolerate the discomfort of waiting.
The inability to tolerate the discomfort. This is the perfect feeling for us to talk about because so much of what we're trying to do with the emotional endurance movement is to help people build the tolerance for the discomfort of the challenging feelings, such as impatience, but also anger, sadness, grief, even love, if you can believe it or not. These are all emotions that can be somewhat difficult to tolerate. And really, any emotion can be, depending on your own experience and journey. And a lot of times, instead of tolerating them, we'll shift into emotional dysregulation. We'll avoid them, we'll invalidate them, we'll numb them out, we'll pretend they're not even there. And we'll even maybe sometimes project them out onto other people in order to just not deal with them. And impatience is one of the ones that I think is so important to talk about because when we go back to March of 2020, that very strange time, there were some interesting things that happened to me as a therapist during that time. And one of the biggest ones was that I had a caseload of probably about 25 to 35 people at the time. And I started noticing very clear themes week to week with clients. So, as we were all going through this shared traumatic experience that was COVID and the pandemic, people were having similar kind of emotional experiences playing out because I think developmentally we were all going through something pretty major at the time. And there are some predictable ways that humans handle trauma. And one of the biggest things that came up, I would say the first couple weeks, it was like exciting in a way, not really exciting. Exciting is not the right word, but we were out of routine. We were out of order. We were all at home and there was like a newness to it all. Right. And then about a month after the newness of it all, it got to be very stale and very difficult very fast. And there were two feelings that people consistently could not cope with. The first was boredom, and the second was impatience. These were two feelings that people had not been practicing, they hadn't built up a tolerance to. To your point, Crimson, they were pretty foreign in our world. We've really engineered a lot of those things away. And it was fascinating to me how triggering these feelings really were. Now, the other part of this that was interesting is it wasn't just my clients I was noticing going through this, it was also me, myself, and my family and how we were dealing with these things. And I was super preggo. So the way that I dealt with it is, like I said earlier in the episode, I just kind of had to surrender to, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope me and my baby make it through this alive. I hope I don't have to go give birth on my own. I hope it's going to be okay for my team and my colleagues and for all of us. And I have no control. And so for me, it really led me into a place of having to sit in the lack of clarity, which is where the impatience really started up. When will we know? What will it look like when we know? Will we go back to work soon? Will we ever go back to work? What does it mean? And this feeling impatience has way more bang to it than you think it would. It is a really hard thing to cope with, especially if you're somebody like me who has OCD. You can get into ruminating and repetitive loops when you are stuck in a situation where there's not clear certain information. And so impatience to me is it's one of those sleeper feelings that we often will prescribe to like children or people that we think are not acting as maturely as they should be as almost an immature emotion. And I would say that we all struggle with impatience when we're confronted with it. And it's just not something that's super present in our life day to day. But when it shows up, you really need to take the advantage to build your tolerance to it.
Yeah, that's my biggest problem is I'm just intolerant to it. And the older you get, the harder the issues get, the bigger the issues get. And you have to get used to it. You can't say, let's build a company and be impatient.
No, you can't. I mean, you can't say I'm going to build any big dream and not stick with the grit and tenacity that it takes to really build and invest.
Right?
With that being said, I will say COVID to me now almost, gosh, I don't know. When did COVID really end? When did we get an end date? See, I think that's the other thing. We were all expecting at the beginning, we all expected there would be a clear end date. And I'm looking back, I'm not even sure that there was a clear end date.
I think it ended for everyone in different times. Like,
Yeah. I will say that now looking back at it, I do think when I am tasked with the feeling of, "Ugh," why I'm so impatient, I just want this resolved right now. I think that whole experience did build a lot of emotional endurance in me for dealing with impatience. So I feel much more equipped now on the other side of it to deal
Oh,
with it. But I was
absolutely.
surprised how it took me and pretty much my whole caseload down at different times between boredom and impatience of just, gosh, these are really hard feelings to cope with. And part of it was because we had atrophied those
Well,
muscles.
and I think because we had moved into a world where impatience was taken, or being patient was no longer required. So it was like the perfect scenario for people to make horrible decisions. How many businesses, and we're seeing it with AI too, big changes. Of course, as an organizational psychology nerd, I was paying attention to how businesses were reopening, decisions they were making, and the lack of patience is definitely quantifiable for many organizations. Impatience of like getting back in the office, or
Yeah.
there was monetary cost to impatience in the pandemic, but there's also the real life human part, which is we were impatient. We wanted our lives back. We wanted what we thought we would have again. And
Yeah.
obviously that never happened. To your point, there's never been any acknowledgement of that. There's never been, oh, we survived this thing. But I would hope that everyone that survived it came out of it with a little bit more tolerance for the impatience that come with the unknown, uncertainty.
I mean, like I said, I know I did, and I hope my caseload did too. All right, now for this week's show and tell, we're going to talk about impatience in history, both examples of times when people didn't really manage impatience very well and it had negative outcomes, and times when people managed impatience so well that it had more positive outcomes. Crimson, why don't you kick us off?
Hey, so Lori, I came up with, I couldn't narrow it down, but luckily they're all similar situations, and I don't think the history needs to be repeated, at least on two of them. So the Challenger was the first thing that came to mind. The Challenger disaster, right? This was in the 1980s, launched a rocket into space with human beings on it, knowing that it was too cold and that there were these O-ring issues, but there was so much schedule pressure, I want to say, to get it launched on that date. And there was a lack of patience. And so they just launched it. 73 seconds later, it completely altered the lives of many and our history in our space voyaging. And so that then led me to think about the Titanic is equally an example of impatience, because they literally rammed headfirst into an iceberg because that seemed better than taking the long route. And just, I mean, it's mind blowing to think in today's world, but the reality is you can make as many James Cameron films as you want about it, but the captain rammed the ship into a known iceberg repository because deviating off track would mess up the photo op of arriving on shore. So the Challenger and Titanic kind of get grouped together for me. But then the Fire Festival. Do you remember that?
Where do you
What?
even start?
Okay, so it was like
Go watch the
2018.
documentary
Yeah, it was like
on Netflix. It's
2018.
unlike anything you've ever seen. I guarantee that.
Basically, a bunch of rich dudes were like, we could have the best festival known to man, and it's going to be like high end millionaire, billionaire status, luxury villas, and gourmet meals, and the best bands. And you're going to be on this island, and you're just going to have this amazing, not wellness retreat, but musical festival retreat.
Five
And
star.
five-star resort living while getting the, honestly, it sounds great to me as someone that loves music and music festivals that retired from them at probably the age of 30 because I decided ill. It was like, for me, it was like a yuppie festival where we could go act like we were still young and cool enough to do festivals, and then go to our luxury villas and drink luxury cocktails and eat wonderful food. So great idea. They put the idea out into the world and started selling tickets for millions of dollars and didn't start planning. And as a result, well, I mean, the luxury villas ended up being FEMA tents. I
Yep.
mean, it got that bad. They ran out of food. They didn't have accommodations. There were heat strokes. People were sick. There was no way to get rid of waste. Those gourmet meals became peanut butter and jelly. I mean,
I don't even think it was peanut butter jelly. I think they got like a slice of bread, a banana, and maybe a piece of American cheese.
yeah.
Not gourmet.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring this back to, more of a business level horrible decision making, which is Fire Festival of putting the cart before the horse. If they would just been a little bit more patient and just plan that, it would have been
So, have you
amazing.
watched the Netflix documentary?
I don't think so.
You need to go watch it because unfortunately, it was a little less we didn't plan and a little more this was a major fraud. So,
Oh, okay. That's good to know.
I know you started it with being like some really rich people wanted to do this. Some people who wanted to be really rich and suggested that they were very rich and very well capitalized took a whole bunch of other people who did have money and a whole bunch of other people who just bought into the vision. Because, like you said, it was a cool idea, it was a cool vision. But girl,
Totally.
you got to go watch that documentary.
I will.
It is one of the wildest ones you'll ever see. It is crazy.
People are crazy. So yeah,
Great.
those were my impatient moments in history. But my favorite one is the Fire Festival because what idiots.
You gotta go watch the documentary, and then you gotta come back to the pod and talk to us about it because I think your feelings are going to multiply.
I'm sure.
I'm going to talk about somebody who coped with impatience well, and that is Mr. Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela was imprisoned in South Africa during the apartheid era, and he was imprisoned basically indefinitely. Lock him away, throw away the key. At this point, he had already spent years fighting for apartheid, and people, of course, were continuing to suffer while he was in prison. There was not much that he could do. And so from his cell, he could not lead protests, he couldn't protect his family or control how quickly change happened or didn't happen on the outside world. So his days become years, years become decades. I can't imagine how impatient anyone sitting in prison must feel. Incredibly impatient, but especially if you're someone who's out there trying to advocate for change and to build something great in your country and to just be locked away without any certainty or clarity. I can't even imagine how despondent that would make somebody just naturally feel. Mandela later described how prison forced him to confront not only his circumstances, but also himself. He could not make the guards move faster. He couldn't make the government become fair or force history to follow his preferred timeline. So he focused on what was still in his control. He redirected that impatience into something else. For him, this was exercising each morning, studying, learning Afrikaans, which was the language of the oppressors who were enforcing apartheid, because he believed that understanding them would eventually help him negotiate with them to build relationship and rapport and make things better ultimately. He prepared himself for a future that he couldn't yet see or had no certainty about when he would be able to engage in it. And he ended up spending 27 years in prison. But his patience during that time and his coping with the natural impatience that would come from that, it wasn't passive. He utilized that to build something so much more. He quietly became the person who could help lead South Africa through an enormous transition without turning the country towards revenge. And I believe that part of the reason that happened is because he took the time to confront and deal with his own self and to find ways to build his strength in incredibly hopeless situations so that he would be ready, trusting that the time would come. And when he was finally released in 1990, many people expected him to emerge furious and ready for retaliation. Instead, he entered negotiations. 4 years later, he became South Africa's first Black president. And Mandela's story reminds us that impatience often says nothing is happening, so why even try? But sometimes the visible outcome is delayed while important work is happening underneath. Mandela could not control the length of his wait, and he must have struggled with impatience throughout that. But by doing so, he became someone who could control what he became while he was waiting. And that to me is such a transformative story of how we can deal with impatience in a way that keeps us moving forward when everything feels helpless and we naturally feel stuck. And that's my story about Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, I mean, he really embodies patience, I would say, more than impatience. His ability to cope with those circumstances and maintain hope and that uncertainty. I mean, it's why he's Nelson Mandela, honestly. But it's just a reminder of how often our impatience gets in the way of greatness. Therapy before it starts to work. Quit your diet before you start to lose the amount of weight you want.
Like the
Dating because you
difficult
can't trust.
conversation before you've actually talked about the things that need to be talked about.
Right. Yeah. And I think Nelson Mandela it goes well with the bamboo example that we discussed. He spent that time not focusing on the impatience, but letting the natural process that he was up against go, but growing while it was happening. And I think that's
While
the
it was
most
happening.
important part of the story is that he didn't let it stagnate his growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And now it's time for the coping skill of the week, which this week it's something a little different. It's bird watching. Now, let's talk about bird watching because I often think that this is a type of coping skill that is taken up by people of a certain age. We get to a certain age, and all of a sudden, bird watching becomes quite fascinating. And so, if you find yourself in that bracket, awesome. If you're not quite there yet, this is what you have to look forward to. Bird watching is a great coping skill because it helps to ground you and to keep you focused on nature and what is happening now. So it's really a big mindfulness practice ultimately. And here's some fun research backed facts about bird watching and your mental health. Your brain likes a feathered scavenger hunt. Searching for birds gently pulls your attention away from worries and towards colors, sounds, movement, and the present moment. Bird encounters may leave a little emotional afterglow. In a study involving 1,200 people, seeing or hearing birds were associated with improved mental well being that lasted beyond the encounter. The association appeared in people both with and without depression. You don't even really have to spot the bird. Experimental research found that listening to bird songs reduced anxiety and paranoid feelings in healthy participants. Birding encourages self fascination. A bird holds your attention without demanding intense concentration. You might get something interesting to follow while overworked parts of your attention system receive a tiny little recess. It turns an ordinary walk into a mission. Instead of thinking, I should exercise, you're wondering, what was that cardinal or that tiny little bluebird? Movement becomes the side effect of curiosity. And bird watching is wonderfully low barrier. You can begin from a window, a sidewalk, a park bench, a live stream, or a backyard. Binoculars are optional, and the National Park Service describes birding as a low cost hobby that can be practiced almost anywhere. It can create connection without demanding constant conversation. Birding groups, identification apps, speeder cameras, and citizen science projects give people something specific to notice and share and connect with without major social interactions for people that find that difficult. A recent research review identified community engagement as one of birding's potential and benefits. And one last fun fact that I have for you is that in order for a bird to sing its bird song, it needs its nervous system to be emotionally regulated. They are unable to sing their bird song when they are dysregulated because, of course, they're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So their bird song is not a necessary tool in that moment. It's also one of the reasons why bird song helps us to regulate our systems because one nervous system recognizes another. So, bird watching, I know it sounds silly, it sounds small, but I swear it is one of my favorite things. And these are my kids' binoculars, but I do have actual binoculars. I actually have a monocular because I have
Nice.
glasses. It's a little bit easier just to have but I love it. I really do. We get a lot of birds in our backyard. So, it's a special part of my day.
That's awesome. I've seen a lot about bird watching, and also we went to the cabin in the woods in Michigan last week. We were on the lake and we had multiple fires, and it took me down these wormholes about how good a fire is for your nervous system along with water, because looking at water and a fire requires your brain to let go of expectations because it cannot predict the behavior of water or fire. And so if you stare at it long enough, it does break down your nervous system to be less in reactive mode and more responsive. It also makes you more vulnerable, which is probably why natives used it as a gathering around the fire. It's much like alcohol in the sense that there's a perception of vulnerability that comes with it. So sitting around a fire, sitting around water, these are inherently vulnerable settings for human species because they're places of connection. And the reason for that is since our archaic brains thousands of years ago to now, looking at something without knowing the pattern helps us open up a dimension of vulnerability.
Love it.
Fascinating, huh?
Very interesting. Very interesting.
I
So
find it
try some bird
rewarding.
watching.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Give it a shot this next week. Let us know how it goes.
Well, I used to have a really good bird feeder, but then I got scared of the bird flu and I got rid of it. Shoot all the
Wow.
birds away. But
Yeah.
maybe it's time to bring it back.
Now it's time for our game of the week, which is called Now, Later, or Never, where we decide how patient or impatient we will be for certain things. Crimson, you ready to go?
Yeah, so Lori, the way this is going to work is we're going to have 3 rounds. One's about instant gratification, one's about waiting, and one's about just not doing it. So, the first round, instant gratification. I'm going to name 2 scenarios, and you're going to say now or wait. And actually, get your paddleboard ready. All right, Lori. First one, $500 today or $1,700 in a month.
I mean, that's like a 6X, so it's a wait, obviously.
Yeah, but we're in a place where we can wait. Some people couldn't. But yes,
That's true.
wait. Okay, you can eat one Oreo consequence free now, or you can eat the whole sleeve on Saturday night.
And it's not consequence free on Saturday night.
Consequence free.
I'd probably still eat the Oreo now.
I would wait. Fucking wait, get a cup of milk, and just make it a whole experience.
The whole thing.
Okay, an extra vacation, short vacation this year, or delay vacations for your dream vacation next year.
I'd wait.
I wish I would wait, but I can only prove to you that I do now. I always end up caving. I'm like, well, wait.
I love how you do. You just got back from vacation and you're like, now. It needs to be now.
That says it all. And that vacation was planned spontaneously. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing because I forgot that I need to do it. It's bad. Okay. Watch the spoiler today or wait until the movie comes out.
Now, because I don't think I have the patience to watch the movie.
That's your impatience. There are so many people are like, oh, I'm not into movies. And I want to just be like, no, you're not patient. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not judging. But it's not that you don't enjoy movies. You lack the patience to enjoy movies. Okay. Skip the line for an average meal or wait the extra hour to get into your favorite restaurant.
Do I have kids with me or not?
You have kids with you.
Okay. Then now. We're just going to eat whatever now. I can't deal.
So
I feel like I'm so hungry.
this is part of dieting because what is happening in my life right now is that I don't put a calorie in my body unless I love it. And so I'd wait. But
Good
2
for
months ago, before I was like actually doing my routine, I would have said no. But no, now if I'm going to eat it, it better be glorious. Okay, a guaranteed B plus today or work for an A long term.
I mean, I'm over school, so now.
I'm with you too. Like B plus, who
Yeah.
cares? Nobody's asked me my
Yeah.
GPA since
Yeah.
like I asked myself it. I don't know. Okay. Oh, this one's gonna show our privilege. $50,000 today or $1 million in 20 years.
I would still say I would say the $50,000 today because I don't know, like I want to invest it.
I could make more money than that.
Yeah.
And 50,000 a day and it takes 20 years to make $1 million. Hell no. Give it to me now. I don't got 20 years left on this planet. Maybe I want it now. I'll go invest it. Okay. Meet your soulmate in 10 years or marry someone who's pretty. We're married. This is a stupid question.
Yeah.
Okay. Lori, that's the end of that game. Round 1 is over. Worth the wait, not worth the wait. So I'm going to say something and you give me a check mark if you think it's worth the wait, and X if it's not worth the wait. All right. Learning a new instrument.
Not worth the wait for me.
Okay. Waiting to buy a home until it's the perfect house.
I mean, that just doesn't exist.
Right. I agree.
It's just not a thing.
Waiting until you're financially stable to have a baby.
I think that, yeah, if you can, not everybody has that privilege.
Agreed. Fresh Krispy Kreme donuts. Would you wait in line?
Totally worth it. Yeah, I'd wait in line. They're really good. Have you had them fresh off the?
No, I don't have the patience to wait.
You might have a different experience if you've had them for like they're crazy, but you're also on a diet, so I don't want to like
Might be worth my
tempt you.
splurge. Okay, a promotion without a raise.
What? No, of course it's not worth the wait.
Building your emotional endurance.
Totally worth it.
You like how
Very
I got
worth
that in there?
it.
Very worth
Yeah,
it. Your kid's growing up.
very worth it.
Worth the wait.
Yeah.
We're on the same page with what we're waiting for.
Yeah.
That's like an age thing, maybe. Okay. Round 3. Which would you rather? You only get one, so you have to pick. Become successful overnight or spend 10 years building a sustainable business that you truly understand and you're passionate about?
Sustainability 100%. Of course. That's what
Agree.
we're doing here.
10
Yeah.
years, yeah.
Absolutely.
Success overnight sounds
Dealing
scary.
with the impatience is worth it. It's worth it
Yeah,
to build something sustaining and strong. Yeah.
I agree. Okay, this
All
is the
right.
big one. And this is why I didn't have a dog until now. Never experience heartbreak or experience heartbreak after having the dog love of your life. Experience heartbreak, right? I kind of
I
don't want
mean,
to.
yeah, yeah, of course. Like that's all we're doing here. Why would we want to? Yeah, 100%.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I didn't get a dog for a long time because I don't want to do that.
Well, I just mean that like in life, heartbreak is part of the package, regardless of if you have a dog or not.
It sucks. All
Yep. But
right.
it's better to have loved than lost
I
than to have
know.
never loved at all.
Skip every uncomfortable conversation or sit in the discomfort to build stronger relationships.
Obviously, we're gonna sit in the discomfort. These all sound like avoidance.
Yeah, that does.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately, Lori, I think we're ready to confront some shit. But I think our biggest contrast is instant gratification. We're totally on different pages. I can't wait for things you can wait for. That's funny.
And that's all for this week's episode of The Emotional Endurance. Thanks so much for watching and make sure to like, follow, and subscribe for more great coping content. And we'll see you back here next week where you bring the feelings.
We'll bring the games. Peace out.